Thank you very much, Mr Acting President. It is with great pleasure again that I rise today to talk on this motion brought to the chamber by the Honourable Dr Sally Talbot. This is something that has a big impact within the mining and pastoral electorate, and is something that I've enjoyed watching the Minister, Alana McGinn, advocate, fight and pursue this for pastoralists across the southern rangelands. If you look back, and I know there's already been a brief history lesson given today and spoken about, the Honourable Colin de Grusa just mentioned the opportunity that had been missed by West Australians. I'm starting to learn it's not unusual for Western Australia to miss out from the federal government, it reminds me very muchly of the wild dog fence funding. When we first come into government in 2017, we've seen there had been next to no work done on the wild dog fence that was critical, and a lot of members today have spoken about the need to innovate and change and be fluid, and I think there has been no bigger experience that I've seen than from sheep into cattle and goats. The West Australia sheep industry was so huge and abundant. I've heard many figures about it. I know Kalgoorlie and the goldfields and further up into the Murchison. You just have to talk to the Shire President of Mount Magnet, Jorgen Jensen, about his family and how they used to have so much sheep, and the wild dog issue ended up just ravaging that area and forcing people to change the way they do business. And it's interesting because you go to Carnarvon now and it's very common to see a goat pie being sold on the side of the road, goats is quite a popular farming industry now as well, and it's something that's forced change, and this is just that. It is change, and it is something that has been well received by the pastoralist industry, and the want for more, and the want to continue growing it, and the want to have that access. I commend the Minister for her work in that space, and for her work to push to find access for West Australian pastoralists. It is something that was welcomed not only by government but welcomed strongly by pastoralists. The Farm Weekly in the 12th of December 2019, pastoralists welcome carbon funding fund, and goes on to say many aspects that they miss out on, and now I think it's about 75 million over 25 years that now have the ability to be accessed. That is a huge ability now for them pastoralists to potentially get close to $200,000 worth of income a year through carbon funding credits, and that is an opportunity, I believe, for them to feel better financially, but also to reinvest into other parts of innovation within their pastoral operation. So it is something that me personally, not being a farmer, probably don't understand exactly how great of a thing it is, but to see and talk with pastoralists when you're with the Minister and to see the reaction and the response is just overwhelming. And I remember going to Geraldton recently on our way up to the Murchison to visit an area with the Premier and Minister Alana McGinn, and it was a local farmer called Rod O'Brien. And what was really interesting around what he was showing us was he had on his driveway as we come up, he just had left a tap going, and he had some water that was running down and across his driveway. And he was trying to explain how controlling the funneling of water naturally will revegetate an area without him having to do anything. And like, he just got down and he put up a couple of sandbanks in his just small theory on the driveway, and you could see how it redirected it. And he'd been doing this, he said, for about 12 years, and I think he said that a few people thought he was a bit crazy at times, but he then took us down to an area where he regenerated, and this area, the photos before and after are absolutely stunning. No water, no plants, just worked land that now was not being used because it wasn't ideal. And they had redirected some of the water flows, and he didn't use any seed, he didn't use any fertilisers, he didn't chuck anything in there. He just simply focused on redirecting the water. And now there's a dam there, all this natural vegetation has taken place, and he was explaining that the birds play a huge role within that as well. I can go into more detail, but I won't. But what they'd done was basically regenerated this area now, which he can now feed his stock on as well. So it was quite eye-opening to see that such a small ideology change, and which he explained wasn't the norm within the area. As I said before, he was sort of known to be a little bit out there in that space. Then when it all started coming to fruition, people started to change their tune, and it was good to see the Premier was out there as well, and was overwhelmed by the fact on how well it actually had revegetated without really any sort of investment there, which was great to see. I want to refer to a recent article in the Midwest Times on the 5th of May 2021. Carbon bid changes game for pastoralists. You know, this is, as I said, such a great news story for West Australian pastoralists, and this article really, for me, says it. You know, carbon farming has been dubbed a game changer for WA pastoralists after one of the state's earliest projects smashed its 5-year goal 3 years earlier, generating more than $2 million worth of credits over the 2-year period. That's fantastic news to see that we smashed a 5-year projection in 2 years. That is full credit to the pastoralists that are taking that step and going outside their comfort zone and going down an innovative way, doing something different. And I know how hard it is to try and, you know, change your frame of mind and do something new. But, you know, it goes on to say it has firm beliefs the practice, which involves regenerating land to increase vegetation, absorbs carbon dioxide, can give pastoralists an opportunity to diversify and add a second income stream to their properties. And we all know how important that is. And as I was saying earlier, you know, they had to diversify from sheep farming, which was such a huge industry in Western Australia. And to see that something as that sounds on the face of it small, a wild dog problem, can end up being detrimental to an entire industry and force change, which in turn changes the landscape itself as well, because you no longer have sheep grazing on there, it's now cattle or goats. So to see pastoralists now take that bigger step and move into a climate change game changer, I think is commendable to them pastoralists. The article touches closely on David and Vicky McHugh, who run Bulga Downs and just south of Sandstone. They embarked on a major regeneration project 2.5 years ago following the approval of the practice by the WA government in 2019. In the milestone for the project, they have just received their first carbon credit payment through the Commonwealth Emission Reduction Fund. The project, which involved introducing management changes to reduce grazing pressure on their land and promote revegetation, was executed in partnership with the natural capital management company Regen Co and will run for decades to come. It is also inspiring to see that this isn't a short-term fix for these pastoralists. They're looking at long-term. They're looking at being in this fund and getting these credits into the future. And what really excites me is to see what they're going to do further with their land. Now that we've seen the dog fences going up as quickly as they are, right across the southern rangelands, there's been a huge push. And also have to commend Minister Alana McTiernan again, huge Aboriginal engagement across them projects on the dog fence as well, which has been really great to see. And I've had the pleasure of going out, particularly to Yaogal, and seeing some of that work done, and it's fantastic. So thank you to the mover of the motion, the Honourable Dr. Sally Talbot. I think that we're entering into a new world. Western Australia is finally getting the opportunity to benefit from this federal area, and I think farmers and pastoralists alike are going to continue to use this and hopefully do better for our planet into the future. Thank you.